Hi Fremont, I'm Kim Vagadori, and I'm excited this week to be able to share with you Matthew 5:10. So I'm reading from the ESV translation. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now I have to admit something. When I first was looking at this scripture that I was preparing for and studying for to share with you all this week, I felt a little bit anxious. This is definitely one of the Beatitudes that makes me feel just a bit cautious, because as I am reading the scripture and as I'm thinking about it, the first word that sticks out to me is persecution. And I struggle with that because I hear stories of individuals, of believers in Jesus who have been persecuted, extremely persecuted because of their faith, because of what they share. They have lost their lives. I think of just what that looks like and the imagery of it. And it feels a little bit tricky that me living in this country that we live in, where we have our freedom of religion and have the ability to openly share our faith and to go to church and to not be concerned about persecution in that manner. It feels just a little bit different to be studying this and thinking in the same light as those who might lose their lives for their faith. But as I was getting into the scripture and really just reading different commentary on it to understand it, the beauty of that through my study was that I actually was taken away from looking and solely focusing on persecution, and instead focusing on righteousness' sake and what it means to be righteous and what it means to just follow Jesus and to live following his righteousness. And something that I discovered for the first time in reading the Beatitudes that I had never been aware of before was that we are being set up with the 7 prior Beatitudes of what it means to live, to be righteous after Jesus. What does that look like? What does that mean? And so here's some things that we know, the characteristics of righteousness to sustain us in dark times, to sustain us in those moments where we have a choice. We are given a choice on whether or not we proclaim the faith that we have and believe in Jesus. And I love that too, that choice. But looking at these characteristics, those who mourn, those who are meek and hunger for the thirst for God, for his mercifulness, we are pure of heart and peacemakers. And I love that one specifically, the being a peacemaker, and just so appreciated Dave's words on that last week. And so thinking of all these things, thinking of these characteristics of what it means to live for righteousness' sake, for Jesus' sake. And he shows us what that looks like and how to do it. And then through him having the strength to know that if we are ever at a place, which many of us are often, and persecution looks differently, but when we are at that place where we are challenged for what we believe because of Jesus, he tells us how to live and what to do and how to respond. And just through that, through knowing that and knowing how to live for his sake and for the things he tells us to do, for that, we are rewarded with the kingdom of heaven. And that's wonderful to know. So I hope, like you, just in your reading this week of this specific scripture, that maybe you see something different too, you hear something different. And again, if you're like me and saw that word and that feeling of persecution and the harshness of it, and that now just seeing something beautiful in that, and seeing the choice that we've been given and the instructions and the guidance we have been taught on how to live for Jesus and how to live for his righteousness in this world. Have a great week, Fremont.